Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to. Oh, let me see real quick. All right, there we go. We had an issue with the mic there for a bit, but now we're all going. So, good morning, and welcome to the Love Your Vibe podcast. I'm your host, Sean Robert Grant. It's been a few days, been taking my time, really diving in. Had a great opportunity to speak to a terrific group over at CSL Fort Lauderdale. If you came, thank you. If you didn't, that's okay as well. There'll be another one coming up, and there'll be plenty more events to come and hear me drop some wisdom and understanding too. So with that being said, hope all is fantastic with you guys from the north, the south, the east, the west, whether you're listening to this presently or in the past, or I always say that in the past, there is no past. Whether you're listening to this present or at a future date in the future of the presence. You know, it's been a while since I did this, so I'm all over the place. But if you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at? Anywho, welcome. I'm happy to have you here. And, you know, today is a special episode because it's about anxiety. And, you know, sometimes what we sort of come across is anxiety being the enemy, right? Anxiety sort of being the enemy, but in actuality, it's not, right? No emotion is the enemy. Every emotion was created by the divine to allow us to see what is registering in our energy field, okay? And so, you know, if you're like me as a child, a lot of times you were, I want to say, chastised, or I want to say reprimanded for expressing what you were feeling. And so for me, I picked up a lot of fear at a young age. But just imagine having to be exposed to fear and then not being able to feel it, and how, you know, just absolutely insane that would feel on the inside. And that's sort of what happened. And so, you know, so many people suffer from anxiety, one, because they pick it up from their parents. Okay. If we know nothing else, we must know that from the ages of 0 to 7, we are picking up, we are sponges, right? From the moment we come into this world to about 7 years old, we're sponges as to every single thing our parents do. So if your parents, keep that in mind, especially if you have little kids, they're picking all of it up. They're picking up your habits, they're picking up your emotions, and guess what? They're at their most psychic. You know, they have like their strongest psychic sense at that age. So they're really even able to understand and to really encapsulate what you're thinking, right? So, I mean, when you really like take a minute to dwell on that, you sort of kind of see why a lot of us are so kind of messed up. Is because our parents didn't have the opportunity, or maybe just didn't take the opportunity, you know, nothing against them, to heal a lot of these hang-ups that they had. And then at that point, once you have a child, everything that you possess is going to be passed on to that child, because that child is basically carrying your energy. It's a carbon copy of you, and it's really watching. It's really watching you. You know, as you operate. So it's important to know, it's important to understand that we, how do I put it? We have to deal with this head on in order to release it, right? And that's what today's episode is about, rising above anxiety, okay? And so when we rise above anxiety, what we're basically doing is returning our state of being to a state of calm, a state of tranquility, a state of ease, right? And so the number one thing in order to do that, and this is the hardest, there is nothing that is harder about this entire situation than this. And that's facing the truth that, okay, I have anxiety, right? Or I'm experiencing anxiety, because we don't have emotions, we experience them and we feel them, right? So when it reaches that point, you can tell yourself, I have anxiety. I'm experiencing, I just said what I wasn't supposed to say. I'm experiencing anxiety is what I was really trying to say. And so once you admit to that, that you're feeling anxiety, 60% of it, you've already solved the issue, right? Because once you recognize it, here's the thing. Here's why emotions are so important for us. And they're such great teachers. Because once we identify what it is, the emotion is almost like a crook being caught by the cops, and they turn around, they surrender. Once you say, I'm feeling something, or you go within and your intuition tells you you're feeling something, immediately it's going to let you know exactly what it is, right? And once again, the terrific thing about emotions is once you express what they actually are, they no longer have any power. It's when they're suppressed that they become like dynamite, that they become explosive, that they become triggers that later on down the road, all of a sudden something happens and you don't know why you went ape shit on everybody, but it's important to really take a minute and just feel into that, and honestly, it could be anxiety today. It could be jealousy down the road. It could be guilt. It could be fear. It could be anger. Your primary objective is to just stay true to yourself and be true to the emotions that come up. Don't, especially for guys, don't attempt to be in this place where you are, how do I put it? Don't attempt to be in this place where you are attempting to be hard and callous, and you're not trying to feel or show your emotions because you're afraid of being vulnerable. That's what I'm really trying to say. And I say that speaking from complete experience, because here's the thing. If you do that, all of a sudden, that's like swallowing a ticking time bomb, right? It's like swallowing a ticking time bomb, and before you know it, when you swallow a bomb, it's got to blow up. It's got to explode at some point, right? So even if you have to go to a safe space or be with somebody who is a safe space for you, make every opportunity you can to feel that, right? You got to feel it, especially with anxiety, because here's the thing. Anxiety eats up the heart. Anxiety is one of those emotions that can eat up the heart. It can eat up your stomach lining. It'll cause belly fat because it's rooted in cortisol. It moves directly towards activating stress within the body. No one should have to live through anxiety, and the best way to ensure that you're not living through anxiety is, first and foremost, acknowledging it, okay? And once you acknowledge it, I feel anxiety. Ask your intuition. We talk about intuitive guidance all the time on here. Ask your intuition, okay? What is the root cause of this anxiety? And it could be, well, you hadn't been making as many sales as you thought you have. You hadn't been having as much quality time with your partner. Like, anything can cause anxiety, right? So it's important for us to know, to get on top of it, because once we deal with it, then we can let it go for good. Or it's just easier to face the next time around it pops up. If I say nothing else, I want to tell you this on this podcast, because I think this is the most important aspect of it all. Be as transparent as possible with your emotions. Your emotional health really controls a lot of how you experience life. And instead of walking around like a a piano wire that's tuned too tightly, loosen up. And loosen up by really allowing yourself to go within and experience what it is that you're feeling. One of my favorite techniques is emotional freedom tapping. Like if you find you're wound up, and I mean, you can find this on YouTube to start off to see if you like it, and then go see a practitioner. But emotional freedom tapping frees up any high-strung, any type of emotions that are lingering in your energy field. And this is why this is so important, because everything filters through the emotions that you have. Your manifestations, the things that come into your life, the amount of money you make, it's all filtering through your emotions. And so it's up to us to deal with those in order to be able to overcome anxiety and other things. And I want to give you one more thing that's going to help you to really switch over from anxiety to calm. And it's this. Understand that there is nothing wrong with experiencing anxiety. It happens all the time. It can happen to anybody. All you really have to do is recenter yourself back into the present moment, because anxiety, the only time you get anxiety is when you're thinking of what's ahead and you have no control over it. But the thing is, you're not supposed to have control. You're supposed to be in this moment, and in this moment until you get to the moment that you find you're having, anxious feelings about. But just return back to the present moment and understand that, okay, it's okay to feel anxiety. Anxiety is normal. It's not something I ever need to be afraid of. But I want to be honest with myself, because when you're honest with yourself, all of a sudden you find that you can do all the things that you decide to do in life because you don't betray yourself. You're being real with yourself, right? You're being real with yourself. And so that is so significant in understanding that you don't need to be afraid of it, right? You don't ever need to be afraid of anxiety or any emotion for that matter. It's only there to help you. It's only there to reveal something that will return you to more love within yourself. And more importantly, you learn to trust yourself when you learn to acknowledge these emotions. That's vital to spiritual growth. That's vital to material success. It's vital to every aspect of your life, especially relationships. You've got to trust that these emotions are here to help you. That anxiety is here to help you, to return you back to a state of peace and love. So don't be afraid. Dive into it. See what it actually is. Acknowledge it. Work through it. And I promise you, you will feel so much better after you do that. So with that being said, guys, I think that's all we have for today. Thank you for joining me once again. Anxiety is not your enemy. Fear is not your enemy. Anger is not your enemy. No emotion is your enemy. It is your ally. It is an asset to realize more love and more connection to source within yourself. With that being said, we will talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us. Take care. Bye-bye.